Your
Start
conference is being recorded.
great. So, welcome again. Thanks so much for taking time. So we're going to talk today about a lot of different aspects of the job assessment. This is going to be fairly short and high level, but if there is something that intrigues you or you have a question about, feel free to ask, or you can email me afterwards with anything that you want or give me a call. So we're going to dive right in here. We have all different levels on the call today, so wanted to start out a little bit just talking about how PI measures both behavior and job assessments, right? What we look at are the four main drives, and those drives of dominance, extroversion, patience, and formality. What we look at through that is those drives then give us base needs of a job in this case, that would match the base needs of a person behaviorally. Then those needs drive predictable behaviors. So we can predict what kind of behaviors will come based on where those drives lie on the spectrum, what those needs are that arise from that, so that we know predictably what behaviors will be needed for a job and what behaviors are in a person to be able to match to that job. So we'll be talking a lot today about matching the drives, needs, and behaviors of a job with the drives, needs, and behaviors of a candidate. And one thing that's true is that for every job, there is the right person, right? So we're talking a lot about the right fit or right alignment. For one job, you're going to need someone who's empathetic yet fast-paced and fairly direct. A different job, you'll need someone who's quiet, patient, and calm. You put a quiet, patient, calm person in the job of someone who is informal, driven, and dominant, they're not going to rise to the occasion, right? It's that old, I think Einstein, you said if you measure a fish on his ability to ride a bicycle, he'll fail every time. So that's really what we're doing with these job assessments. It's really getting a right benchmark to measure a person against, not only in hiring, but later down the line as we get into coaching and managing as well. And that's why it's really important to get the right fit. I was just talking with a client yesterday, and they are trying to fill an inside sales position. And he has someone already in the company that he really wants to be the guy. And we were talking about it, and from a traditional sales pattern, he wasn't a very high fit. He was a mid to low fit. But we went through and found that they had done a job assessment back in 2011 for this position. They haven't really been using it because, as all of you know, some things happen and you get out of the habit. And it turned out that this guy that he really wanted to be the right fit for this, that he was almost about to pass over because he wasn't a traditional pattern for a salesperson, was actually perfect for their company in the way that they created the job assessment for an inside salesperson. So that's why it's really important to do these, to get the right kind of feedback and to review them on occasion. Because his was from 2011, we reviewed to make sure it was still the accurate description. So for every job, there is the right person, and using the two tools is what helps us get there. The other thing is, it's going to make your life easier. So I don't know if any of you have laid in bed awake at night thinking, oh my God, it is going to take forever to find the right candidate, whether we have, 200 applicants for this, or for some of you, it's harder because you only have 2 applicants, right? And how can I be sure they're really a good fit? We look at their resume, they fit culturally, we like them, but really are they a right fit for the job? And on the flip side, you've got some candidates out there that are saying, oh my gosh, what is taking this recruiter so long? I'm dying over here. How do I know if I'm the right person? This is going to speed up and streamline your process of getting the right people in and not missing out on a great candidate. So I picked kind of the 5 most asked questions about the job assessment. And the first one is, what is the job assessment? Essentially, as I've mentioned before, it's just a benchmarking tool. It's what we use to compare what is needed in a job to a person or a candidate's behavioral needs. So this really allows us to define the behavioral, and now we're getting into cognitive as well, requirements for a job to help target the right candidates for each position within your organization. How many a job assessment should I send out? And what I'm referring to here is when you create the job assessment, you're actually sending it. So it's just like a behavioral assessment, slightly different, but you're sending it out of the system to a certain amount of people. We recommend between 3 and 5 people. I would not recommend less, one person. It needs to be definitely more than one person. And when you get into kind of the 8 to 10 range, there's a lot of negotiation in there. Not to say that you can't add more people, but the sweet spot really is 3 to 5 interested stakeholders. And what I mean by that is anyone who has a really keen knowledge and experience of what it takes to do that job. Now, that person could be the manager. It could be someone in HR. It also could be the high performers already in that position. So again, we look to send between 3 and 5 is the sweet spot. Great question here is, what is the difference between the job and behavioral assessments? So I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're shifting language, right? So some of you who've been using the tools for a long time refer to the behavioral assessment as the PI, right? His PI, her PI. We really are kind of leaning more towards calling that the behavioral assessment or the BA, and the job assessment or the JA rather than a pro. The difference between these two is that one measures what it takes to do this job well, right? The behavioral is what is that person's most natural behavioral tendencies and who are they in times of stress and pressure. So the biggest difference is one is the job, what does it take to do this job well, and the other is who is the person, and that's the two that we match. In the system, they make it really easy. Job assessments are shaded in orange, and behavioral assessments are shaded in blue. So from a quick view, you can see which one is which. How often should I do a job assessment? So obviously, anytime there's a new position that you're hiring for in your company, that would be the right time to do it. As a review, we suggest every couple of years to at least go back, read the job report, which will show you what that is later, and make sure that you're still on target for what this job is and is this what we still need in the company. There's other different benchmarking ways that we can help you with as well to make sure that you're still in alignment, that that job assessment is still matching what the needs of the job are. So first time, anytime there's a new position or a new position that you're hiring for, I actually recommend doing one for every position in your company, because then you can start benchmarking your employees to help coach and manage them better. And then finally, what is the job report? The job report is very similar to the person's behavioral report. We'll actually look at one later today, but it's going to give you both a written summary and a bullet point of the attributes that this job requires. And this job report you can send to anyone in your company. You can actually use the language. It's non-proprietary, so you can use that language in your advertising and your job descriptions. And that's actually really going to help you to start attracting the right person. There's going to be language in there that someone who's reading it, who's behaviorally fit for that, is going to be really attracted to. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Right. So the PI job assessment. This averages between 10 and 15 minutes, so I picked 12. It's a little bit longer than the behavioral. The main difference is that there are 3 pages of behavioral sentences. So there are sentences such as needs to make decisions independently, needs to work well with others, needs to be good with systems and complex systems. They've just recently added, and for those of you who've been using the tool for a while, you may have noticed this or may be getting some feedback on it. They've added 3 pages of cognitive questions as well. Now, for those of you who are, whether you're using the cognitive tool or not, it's actually not going to have any effect right now. We're in a data gathering place. There's some great things coming down the line for later this year and especially in 2018. So they're starting to gather cognitive data of what it takes to do certain jobs. And you're going to be able to benchmark cognitive a little bit easier. For those of you that use it, I bet you're cheering in your head right now. Everyone's been asking for that. And if you're not using it, it will have zero effect on anything. You just whip right through it and don't even worry about it. The other thing is that it's unbiased feedback. Sometimes, as you know, sitting in a meeting talking about a job, you may not actually give your honest opinion, or you may kind of couch things, that whole groupthink idea. This really gives everybody the chance to give completely unbiased feedback without discussion, really just what they think, and then have the discussion afterwards. And obviously, like everything that we do, it's scientifically valid, and that data gathering that we're doing for the cognitive is exactly what we're doing to validate that as well. So moving on to the meat. For those of you who have ventured out into Catalyst, which is our fairly new support system on the website, there are great things out there. There's a community, and there's fun learning inside the community. There's support. There's all sorts of information out there. This is a screenshot directly from a document called Gain Agreement on Job Pattern in Catalyst. So this is your job assessment checklist. So this is what best practice is. You can actually create your own, but this is what we suggest, is to review the job description, identify your 3 to 5 stakeholders. You can set a meeting prior to discuss it, or you can just send out the job description, then send the assessment. But the review afterwards is the key, really. So reviewing the behavioral patterns of what everyone sends in. We're going to talk about that. Another piece that you can do as well is to review the behavioral patterns of the top performers that are in the job. Now, that's something, if you're not familiar with what that is, you can utilize me, you can utilize your consultant. We geek out on that kind of work. So absolutely call us to help us with that. We can run an analytics report to identify what's common between your top performers now and make sure that aligns with what you've created for your job assessment. So when you send, this is actually a picture of the email. I get a lot of questions about what is it that what email gets sent out. First off, it gets sent from a no reply at, just like the behavioral assessment does. So be sure to let your 3 to 5 people know, especially if they're not really familiar with PI. Let them know that it's coming. It oftentimes gets stuck in spam, so just let them know it's coming from PI with a no reply. That top section there is customized. So you can actually set a default in your system, or you can write individually each time that you send it, for those of you that have access to send. Some of the language that I really love and encourage you putting in is to tell people to really take their time completing it, to be mindful of what you're looking for from the perspective of what you're willing to reward, not what's nice to have. So sometimes we can go through and be like, yeah, I'd love it if they had that. You really want to keep it to what's going to be rewarded in the position. And then below that line is standard for everybody. There is an expiration on the link. If it does expire, you can resend it. You don't have to send a new one. They can just quick resend it. But that's exactly what everyone sees. So next, after everyone does the completion, you're going to facilitate the discussion. Now, anyone who's been trained in PI, that's who would be facilitating this discussion. You also, this is something that we highly recommend that you leverage us for. We, again, geek out on this. We would love to help you. We would love to set up time to discuss. What you would want to do is just review the job assessment results before that stakeholder meeting. If you've been trained, kind of take any notes on what are some similarities and differences. All right, now I'm going to go to the next screen so you can actually see what I mean. So this is a mock one that we've done here, and I'm actually going to go into the system quickly after we look at this. So this is where we would start the discussion. One of the things that you'd want to do, for those of you that have been trained, you're going to kind of see what are the patterns here and what are some differences, right? So we all agree on this, that it should be someone with a high level of extroversion, and most everybody agrees that it would be a low level of patience. So we would want to talk to Laura about why does she see that this person needs to be a little bit more consistent. And again, really keep the PI languaging kind of out of this unless everybody's been trained or has a lot of experience with it. Keep it more in, hey, so we all think this is someone that really needs to connect to people quickly, someone who is a team player, likes harmony, but can really understand a sense of urgency. The other thing that's great to do is that if you come in and you see, all right, we're sort of on the same track, you can save this job pattern, send everyone the job report to review, and have everyone take notes on whether or not that sounds like what they meant when they were answering the questions, because sometimes the questions get a little skewed. So what I mean by that is, here's an example of the job report. So there's the summary and then the job characteristics. So you can have everyone go ahead and read through that. And this is in plain language that can be used by anybody to make sure that we all understand and are on the same page. I'm actually going to share my screen with you now while we go into the system. Are there any questions so far? Okay, super. So, for those of you that have the system access, this is what you would see before it's completed, right? There's nothing here that's completed. A couple different ways to go in. You can go in by create a job pattern, or over here, create a job pattern. You'll see that right now that pattern report or that job report is not available. Let's go into the back end and say create a job pattern. So here we are. We've facilitated our discussion. We've talked to Laura why she wants a little bit more consistency, and she says, nope, I agree with you guys. You're right. This is actually right about where we would want that patience. We talked to Steve about why he thought they need someone with a little bit more hard charging, a little bit more decisive and directive. And he agrees with us now. You know what? We do need someone who's a little bit more harmonious. However, we'd really like them to be able to take charge sometimes. So we think that we'd actually like that A on the midpoint here. So I'm going to take my cursor, I'm going to drag that dot, put it right on there. Now you'll notice the entire pattern shifted a little bit there. That's going to happen because, as most of you know, these factors don't act independently of each other. So then we decide, okay, we're going to bring that formality back up because we all like it just a little bit on the other side. All right, that's a good pattern for our customer service representative. We're going to go ahead and save job pattern. And it brings us back to this main screen, and you'll see now we have the pattern report. Now you can go back in. You could have saved that before the discussion, then had the discussion and said, nope, we need someone with a lower level of dominance, of formality and a higher level of dominance. So we're going to make this pattern here. I'm going to go ahead and save that again and then go in to view my job report and have everyone read that and make sure they agree. So you can edit it at any time. This is a great document to use for those that aren't as well versed in just being able to look at the pattern and knowing what does it mean when all these dots are where they are. Another great thing is that view similar people. You can click on this and find people inside your organization that already have a pattern like that. I'm actually not going to have you guys do that. We're going to stop screen share. Where are you? There you are. Stop screen share. Great. We'll come back to my slides. Great. One of the other tools that's available to you are the interview guide and the coaching guide. So once a person is connected to a position, and you can do that either when you send the behavioral assessment or you can connect it afterwards in the person detail page. And again, if you're not sure how to do those, you just shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to walk you through that. What's great about these is that, so this is an interview guide here. It's going to give you check marks where the factors align and a question mark where they don't. So if you, and it will still give you questions to interview around even if there's a match. So one of the things also just to point out here is for those of you that are trained, you'll notice that, you know, a 2 sigma low C can be very different than a 2/5 of a sigma low C. So for this person, you might want to even dig in a little bit more around that patience about, you know, tell me sometimes when you've had to slow things down, when you've had to work a process. So you still want to kind of use common sense in your training, but this is still a great tool to get you started on what matches and what doesn't, and where do I really want to dig in.
So you're going out?
We're coming up with, in 2018, there's going to be a far more robust version of this, so get ready for that, but that's also why we're having you guys really start with these now. So next steps and resources. We have our next Lunch and Learn is September 28th. We're going to continue with the series with job assessments. We're going to go into how do we use these for hiring. Then we'll do how do we use these for coaching. But we'll revisit a little bit of what we did this time. When you're creating these, again, I cannot stress enough, contact your consultant. You know, contact me. We all love doing these. We have some resources. We can help you benchmark with other industries that are like yours. You know, we have a lot of experience. We don't have a technical quote-unquote book of these, but we have a book in our head or book in the system that we can tell you what's typical for something in your industry or something of a job of that nature. If there was anything, for those of you that are have access to the website and there was anything that I covered today that you're not sure how to do, please shoot me an email and we can book a one-on-one web training. I'm happy to show you guys shortcuts on best how to use these, how to complete it, how to move the pattern around like that. And again, I really suggest digging into the Catalyst resources. The two that we use today are Gain Agreement on Job Pattern and the Job Assessment FAQ. The Job Assessment FAQ is a great thing to use when you're sending out to your stakeholders that aren't really sure what the heck is this. So you can go into Catalyst, search Job Assessment, and both of those will come right up. There's also videos in there if I'm not available to show you how to send the job assessments, and so on and so forth. So we've got 5 minutes for questions now. Is there anything that's come up that anyone has a question about? Or anything you'd like for me to revisit or clarify?
Hi, my question was to understand your experience on managers completing the job assessments when they have not experienced with the tool before, how tips to guide them on how to complete it if they're not familiar with the PI.
Sure, great question. What's great about this tool is that you don't actually have to have any training on the drives at all. You don't need to know anything about PI to take this, just like you don't need to know anything. It's better that you don't know anything about PI to take the behavioral. The tips that I would give you is to really have them when they're reading the sentences, so when they're reading the description in the 3 pages, is to think about what would be rewarded in this role. Really think about what are the base things that it takes to do this job well, not the nice to have. But again, they need no PI experience to take this at all. There's no PI language in it. It's simple statement languaging.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else have a question or thought?
Larissa, this is Scotty calling from Canada. We had some trouble. Hi. We had a few, there was a couple of us who had difficulty dialing in, so we had to get help from Laura. We were using the wrong access code, so we were late to your training session. I know that it's going to be recorded. Where will it be recorded, and where is it stored?
Right, great. So it's recording now. It does take a little while for it to compress and so forth. We're actually going to house all of these out on our website. And everyone on the call today, will get a recording of this. In addition, we will send out kind of a mass email, again, through Constant Contact with the follow-up of this, what next week's is going to be, and the recording. And then it will also be out on the training tab of our website for your reference at any time. But sorry you had some trouble there. I see. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scotty.
So we won't have to do anything because through the email enrollment, you'll be able to send us this information. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep. Nope,
Okay.
You don't have to do anything. I'll make sure that everyone on this call today gets it. I see a question from Jeff here. Do we have to dial in for this webinar? Yes. And I do apologize to everyone. I'm glad I tested on Tuesday. They changed my ClearSlide number recently. We have two numbers for ClearSlide. One records and one doesn't. The original one I sent you guys is my non-recorded line, as this is the first one, learning the bugs. So going forth, we'll be much better about that. So thank you, everyone, for your patience and sticking with it. And I will make sure that everyone gets the full recording of this.
Thank you.
A couple more minutes. Is there anyone that has another question or? All right. Well, if something does come up, you go ahead, you reach out to me, you reach out to your consultants, you just give us a call here. That number on the screen there, the 508-778-1300 is the main line here. Even if your consultant is on vacation or out of the office, all of us here are willing and able to help you. We really do work from a group standpoint. I thank you again for your time today. I hope this was beneficial, and hopefully we will see you next month. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.